Hello, you're listening to Country Pocket on WUSB Stony Brook 90.1 FM. Today we have Liu Cannon. Her album is called Clever Rabbits, and the song you just heard, really stormy statement piece, is called Jealous God. Um, would you say that jealousy is very much in our nature?
Yeah, I mean, if God is a jealous God, then, I think we all probably are prone to it. If he made us in his image, then yeah, it's pretty in our nature. Um, Struggle to find people who wouldn't get jealous.
Yeah, it's funny to almost embrace the jealousy, like, hey, it exists, it's here.
Yeah, yes. I think with that song, I think there's a certain when you become jealous and you're in that jealous space, you kind of play God in a way. Like you kind of envision into other people's heads what you've decided that they think or feel, or like you've projected onto people. And I think as soon as you start projecting, you are playing God. And it's, not an ideal thing to do to other people or yourself. So yeah, I liked that. I liked it in the Ten Commandments. It was I can't remember which number it was, but it's, your Lord God is a jealous God, so don't go looking at any other gods. And I thought it was like, well, if God is doing it, then we're probably prone to it as well.
Yeah, I liked you know, you can't necessarily override some of these instincts. Um, I-
With
I-
that cat,
yes, there's a cat.
see, the cat's jealous already, right? Talking to someone else and it comes over and wants attention.
Yeah, he hears my voice and remembers he has a pet human. I'm sorry, enjoy the cat. I gotta edit this
Um,
part out later, but
no, I'm thoroughly enjoying the cat. It's just so cute.
he's a really, really affectionate little dude.
Oh, look at him. Oh,
All right, the cat doesn't exist.
oh,
Sorry.
okay.
Um, so talk about the carving of the names into the wood.
The carving of the names. Oh, verse 2. I see. Well, when you're tortured, when Jesus was tortured, um, I don't know the word flagellated. I feel like I'm making up that word.
Flagellated. Yeah, that's it.
Flagellated.
You got it.
Um, there's that association of like torturing yourself, um, and someone else torturing you by like carving names of someone else. And I think also that there's like three parts to this. There's that part, and then there's when you have a crush on someone at school and you're like you often doodle their names like your name their name, and you're kind of it's a very childish like energy to inhabit. So there's that, and then the third thing is like obviously being stabbed in the back, like you're and that image of carving someone else's name on your back. I think for me married those three things really well. Like it's kind of childish, it's a crush, it's a fantasy, it's not actually the real person, but it really hurts both you and the other person. So it is like being tortured. And there's something, it's not permanent because like your skin will heal, and um, but it is those three concepts, I think, kind of trying to squish into that one line.
So let's take things back a step. Um, this album, this album is it's about a relationship. It's about something that didn't work out, but it's also probably one of the most illusion mythological, like all those things. It's rich in those things beyond sort of anything that you might expect would generate a conversation about high school crushes. Um, so So I guess tell me why you decided to explain your emotions with proverbs and verses of the Bible.
I grew up around a lot of sacred spaces, being involved in a lot of sacred spaces. My schooling was through uh, Church of England. My father taught sacred architecture, so I spent a lot of time in the buildings. It didn't mean that I was partaking particularly. I'm not religious in that straightforward manner, but I spent a lot of time in these environments, and they mean a lot to me. Um, that's partly it. And then the second thing is that they are some of the oldest texts that we have. And I like to root everything I'm doing in the foundation of the past, whether that's in a genre, a song, a sound, or a word. Um, and so it's a desire to create that foundation by learning from these past writings and past religions and past places. So those are the two
That's an
main
attitude
things.
you take into life, not just your writing.
Yes, yeah, it is. It is. It is. You know, it sounds so cliche. You can learn a lot from the past, and but we can learn a lot about ourselves in the scriptures and things that have come before us. Um, yeah.
Yeah, you say you love me, but you can't watch me. Like there's just this tension here in this album where I guess it just feels tense would be the word that there's associated with emotions like love. There's jealousy, there's paranoia, there's all this pain. So so tell me about how you experience love.
I think at that period of time, I experienced love in a very, very innocent, naive, wholesome way, but it meant that I was very prone to losing all sense of my borders and just kind of dissipating in a way internally. So I'd experienced love in that sense, and I think this project writing about these things was about trying to understand that what that was and how love was at that time in my life. All the songs were written very off the cuff. Like I really didn't vision them to become this like story project. It was actually Ethan, the producer, that came in and chose the songs that I'd written over the course of 5, 6, 7 years or so. And saw the story, and then I saw my story in that, and I realized that I experienced love. You know, it's very self-centered. To be honest, the project is so self-absorbed, and I think in order to get to the point where you can kind of let go of your own reality being the only reality, which is like quite a selfish way of experiencing love, um, you have to go through this like very, you know, inner inner observation time. And so the songs are like super dramatic, super dramatic, and really exploring like my opinion on these dynamics. And really, like, there's two people in the dynamic, and they didn't really get a chance to say their piece. And so I think it's like, yeah, I think it was a naive and selfish kind of love. I wouldn't have realized it was selfish at the time, but I think that's what it was in a way, because you don't really look beyond. If you can't look beyond yourself, then like, can you really love? So and I was experiencing that from other people and also me to them. So yeah, love was very young. I think that's the best way to put it.
Yeah, and maybe that says something interesting about the development of these myths that you essentially wrote your own story without realizing you were writing your own story, that which is sort of took place and you jotted it down and only realized it later. So
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
in an album of myth, it's interesting to see how you sort of tell your own story.
I think that the whole period of time was, yeah, I was doing a lot of talking and a lot of story writing, like, and I was telling my story over and over again to try and understand it. And I think that's what you kind of have to do for a long time, especially in like spaces like traditional talking therapy models and things that they're all about. You have to tell your story again and again in order to actually move on from it. But there has to be that period of time where you're like really in it and you really have to go over it again and again. And that's kind of, I think, what I was really doing. Again, I couldn't know this at the time, but looking back, and I think part of that, yeah, I naturally wanted to draw on these myths and legends to help me understand my story and then tell it and well, hopefully let go of it. Yeah, yeah. So the myths and legends all kind of intertwined with that.
So, tell me a little bit about your heritage. It's obviously about to become relevant.
Yes, well, my mom's from China and my dad's from well, he's from London, but he also grew up near Dartmouth.
So we covered you covered the sacred spaces and the myths you obtained from your father's side of the family. Um, Tell me about the Chinese proverb involving the clever rabbits of the album.
Yes, the idiom to start all idioms. It's it's called 狡兔三窟, which means clever rabbits need three burrows, or clever people have backup plans. And I think this was like song number three, something to number four that I wrote for unknowingly for this project. And my dad was telling me about this. This is where the two threads combine, actually. My dad was telling me about this symbol that appears in caves in eastern China and churches around Dartmoor in the UK, and also a few places in Europe, like in Italy. Um, and it's three hairs with three holes and three burrows intertwined. And it's referred to colloquially as like a few different things. It's referred to as Tinner's hairs in Dartmoor. Um, but they all cropped up at a time when like no one really knows who the stonemason was or why they were doing this. They presume it was along, maybe, like I say this hesitant, maybe along the Silk Road because it supposedly came from China, but no one actually knows. It's a bit of a mysterious symbol. And then my mom told me that separate to this conversation, she was like, "Oh, there's this saying about clever rabbits needing three burrows." And I was like, "Oh, these things like directly correlate, but there's no like no one's I mean, far as I know, no one's documented that correlation. So there's some artist or stonemason or sculpture out there who's like there's this
Like
idiom.
modern or ancient?
This was ancient. It's really old. Um, and there's like one book on it, and it's just gone out of print now. Like it's really mysterious. Anyway, and I, in my super self-absorbed phase, was like, because I'm born under the year of the rabbit in the Chinese zodiac, and of course my dad was from the place where one set of these rabbits are found, and my mom was from the place where the other set of rabbits are found, and I was trying to understand myself in London because I moved there quite young. But I grew up in the countryside, so and I was, losing myself all over the place, and running around like a mad hatter. So I really wanted that. I just really identified with that symbol. I was like, yeah, I was hopping around London, hopping around the countryside, very restless, experiencing lots of new things, and the symbol really spoke to me. So that was the beginning of that kind of myth. And I kind of got around in life, I think a bit like a rabbit, because very keen on burrowing away, very keen on the home, but very, very sensitive to danger, but almost to the point where they'll just like get very startled and then at the very last minute they'll bolt. And I think other people find the bolting quite jarring, as do I. But I think that's why I quite identified with these things, with this myth.
So you talked about talked about all these places. Tell me about smelling the fear of London. That is uh that is an interesting line, that one.
I don't know what I'm talking about. I think I just made sense at the time. Well, you know when you're really scared and you like it feels like there's something on your nose, like your nose, you know when you're really freaked out and your nose clears itself and you know that you're freaked out. And I think, London's very prone to that. Anywhere you go, there's always something waiting to make your nose clear. So I thought that would be funny because your nose clears when you're scared, and then you can suddenly smell London. So you know that you're scared and you're in London. And like a rabbit, rabbits' noses are always twitching. They're always trying to smell the next danger. So I think that's what I was trying to do, but I got it wrong.
Every line with you is on so many levels.
Yeah, it goes. Yeah, I was really trying. Yeah.
Um, More interesting one, keeping on the rabbit myth, keeping on songs about that. They told you that you'd grow up to have a mind of your own.
Mm.
Uh, you've implied you've done quite a bit of growing up since this album. Uh, do you
I
think
hope
that came
so.
true? Do you think you actually did grow
Yeah.
up to have a mind of your own?
I think I'm way closer to, to what I was at the time. Much closer to what I was then. Yeah, it was a real era of my life. It was the first 25 years of my life, really documented and recorded. It's blessed. What a blessed thing to have. And yeah, definitely far closer to that now. You have to ask my friends and my family, to be honest. I think I am.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of intensity and strange connections in this album. You definitely have a mind of your own. You're an original.
I'm glad that it's nice that that has come across to you at that period of time in my life because I definitely felt like uh very messy, very lost in where I kind of ended and where other people began, and that was my real.
Yeah, messy can be interesting. Messy can make for good art. Let's hear Clever Rabbits, and we'll be right back.